Welcome to our channel, and today another story, another truth that cannot be ignored.
The office door swung open with a sharp push, and a man in a pressed gray suit stormed inside. His shiny watch caught the fluorescent light as he glanced around, lips curling with impatience. "Excuse me," he barked at the receptionist. "Where's your boss? I have a meeting." The receptionist blinked, startled by his tone. "Do you mean Miss Johnson?" "Miss Johnson?" he repeated, a mocking laugh escaping his throat. "I said the boss, the real decision-maker, not some assistant, not some secretary, the one actually in charge here." From the corner of the open office floor, a young black woman lifted her head from a stack of papers. She wore a navy blue blazer, her hair neatly pulled back, her expression calm, focused. She didn't speak yet. She just watched. That woman was the CEO, but he didn't know. Not yet. The receptionist shifted uncomfortably. "Sir, she's—"
He cut her off with a wave of his hand. "Don't waste my time. Just get me the person who signs the contracts, the one with the authority. I don't have time for interns or whoever." His eyes flicked dismissively over the staff, skipping past the woman in the blazer as if she didn't exist. A murmur rippled through the office. People glanced up from their computers. Some frowned, some shook their heads. They had seen arrogance before, but this was different. This was thick with entitlement. The woman in the blazer, her name was Maya, finally closed her folder. She rose slowly from her chair. Every movement was deliberate, calm, but there was steel in her eyes. She crossed the room. Her heels tapped against the polished floor with a rhythm that seemed to hush the whispers around them. When she reached the man, she extended her hand. "Good morning. I'm Maya Johnson." He looked at her hand, but didn't take it. Instead, he smirked. "Of course you are." He let the sarcasm drip heavy. "Listen, sweetheart, I'm here for a major deal. It involves millions of dollars. I need the actual boss. You can take notes, maybe grab some coffee, but let's not pretend you're the one running this show." The room froze. The receptionist's face flushed red. A junior manager in the back muttered, "Oh no." But Maya? She didn't flinch. She let her hand fall gracefully back to her side and smiled. A calm, steady smile that unsettled him more than any anger could have. "Interesting," she said softly. "You're here for a major deal?" "Yes," he snapped. "Finally someone's listening. The contract with your company to make or break my firm. So let's not waste time with games. Fetch your boss and let's get this moving." The silence was deafening. Every eye in the office was on them. Maya tilted her head, studying him as if he were a curious insect crawling too close. She could have ended it right there. She could have revealed the truth, crushed him with a single sentence. But instead, she let him dig his hole deeper. "I see. And what exactly do you hope to offer us?" He straightened, puffing out his chest. "A marketing strategy that will double your exposure. My team is the best in the industry. We've worked with Fortune 500 companies. We deliver results. But we don't waste time negotiating with assistants." That word, assistants, hung in the air like poison. A low murmur ran through the employees again. Some of them clenched their jaws. Some shook their heads in disgust. One whispered, "He doesn't know who he's talking to." But Maya stood calm, her face unreadable. She nodded slowly. "So, you're confident your strategy would work for us?" "Confident?" He laughed loudly, too loudly. "Lady, it's a guarantee. But like I said, I don't have time to explain myself to someone who can't make decisions. Bring me the one in charge, preferably a man who knows how to do business." The audacity, the arrogance. It was dripping off him, staining the room. And yet, Maya's smile never wavered. She leaned forward just slightly, her voice even, but laced with something sharp enough to cut glass. "Tell me, she asked. "When you walk into a room, do you always assume the boss looks like you?" His eyes narrowed. "What's that supposed to mean?" "It means," she said, her tone calm, her eyes locked on his, "that perhaps the reason you've lost clients isn't your so-called strategy. It's your attitude." Gasps rippled through the office. He chuckled, but there was a crack in his confidence now. "Cute, real cute, but enough with the small talk. Where's the real decision-maker?" The room went still. Maya finally straightened her shoulders, her presence commanding, undeniable. She met his eyes with a calm fire that made even the receptionist sit taller. "You're looking at her," she said. The words sliced through the air like a blade. The office erupted in silence, not noise, not whispers, but silence so sharp it felt like a thunderclap. The man's smirk faltered. His mouth opened, closed, opened again. For the first time, he didn't know what to say. Maya's voice didn't rise, but it carried weight. "I am Maya Johnson, CEO, founder of this company, the person you've been so eager to meet, but not respectful enough to recognize." And just like that, the entire balance of the room shifted. The man's face drained of color, then flushed a deep, angry red. His jaw tightened. "You?" he spat, as if the word itself was bitter. "You expect me to believe you run this place?" Maya didn't blink. She didn't flinch. Her calm stare met his anger like steel against fire. "That's right," she said evenly. "I built this company from the ground up. Every desk you see, every client we've won, every paycheck my team takes home, it all flows through my leadership." Her voice was steady, but her words thundered through the office. People watching felt a rush of pride, a surge of heat in their chests. But the man wasn't done. He laughed, sharp and cruel, the sound echoing against the glass walls. "This is a joke," he sneered. "You can't expect me to hand over a contract worth millions to someone like you." The "someone like you" wasn't subtle. Everyone heard it. Everyone felt it. His meaning was clear. The receptionist bit her lip, fists tightening at her sides. A junior executive in the corner whispered, "Unbelievable." Maya's smile didn't falter. She simply tilted her head, her eyes locked on his with a quiet, dangerous calm. "Someone like me," she repeated softly. "A black woman, a CEO, a leader." She took a single step closer, her heels clicking like a drumbeat of authority. "You seem uncomfortable with that." He scoffed, but his voice had a crack in it now. "I'm uncomfortable with wasting my time. You're probably in that chair because of quotas, or politics, or enough." The word rang out, sharp as thunder. It didn't come from Maya. It came from one of the senior managers who had been watching silently until now. His voice shook with fury. "Do you even hear yourself?" he demanded, eyes burning into the man. "You walk into her company, disrespect her staff, insult her leadership, and you expect to do business here? This is the woman who made us a leader in this industry. You don't deserve 5 seconds of her time." Applause broke out, not loud, but steady. A ripple of claps from desks around the room. Small at first, then louder, until the entire office was filled with the sound of solidarity. The man's face darkened. He turned in a circle, glaring at them all. "Oh, so now you're all clapping like sheep? You'll regret this. My company doesn't need yours. In fact, once word gets out—" Maya raised a hand. The clapping stopped instantly. The silence returned. Her voice was calm again, quiet, but deadly sharp. "Word will get out, but not the way you think." She walked past him toward the glass-walled conference room. For a moment, he stood frozen, unsure, hesitant. But his pride shoved him forward, forcing him to follow. The staff exchanged looks. Some shook their heads. Others whispered, "He's done." Inside the conference room, Maya placed a folder on the polished table. She didn't sit. She simply opened it, pulled out a sheet of paper, and slid it across to him. He picked it up, frowning. It was a client report, one of his firm's reports, and it was riddled with errors, inflated numbers, shaky projections, false promises. "Where did you get this?" he demanded. Maya's gaze never wavered. "We do our homework. When someone wants to partner with us, we research, we dig, we ask questions." She leaned forward, voice low, every word laced with precision. "Your company has a reputation, and not a good one. Missed deadlines, broken promises, clients who say you overcharge and underdeliver. Did you think I wouldn't know?" His hands tightened on the paper until it crumpled. "That's exaggerated. Those are lies. My competitors are spreading rumors." Maya arched a brow. "Then explain this." She slid another paper across the table. This one wasn't a report. It was a copy of a lawsuit. His company was being sued by a major client. His face turned pale. I don't need to explain anything to you," he stammered. "This doesn't change the fact that I can help you. My team can—" Maya's voice cut him clean in half. "Your team lies. Your numbers lie, and you walked into this office assuming the person in charge couldn't possibly look like me. That tells me everything I need to know." The silence that followed was unbearable. Even the hum of the air conditioning seemed loud. Finally, he slammed the papers down. "You'll regret this. You're making enemies you don't need. When word gets around, no one will respect you." Maya stepped closer, her presence towering, though she stood only inches taller in her heels. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to.
"Respect isn't given," she said. "It's earned, and I've earned mine. You, on the other hand, just lost yours." The glass door opened. The staff outside could see everything. They had heard enough to piece together what was happening. The man shoved the papers back into the folder and stormed toward the exit. His steps were heavy, angry, but as he passed through the office, no one moved out of his way. They stood tall, blocking his path with their presence, their eyes cold and unflinching. He hesitated at the door, looked back at Maya one last time. His voice cracked with anger and humiliation. "This isn't over." Maya's reply was soft, almost too soft to hear, but it carried through the silence. "It is for you." And with that, he shoved the door open and disappeared into the hallway. The office was still for a moment. Then applause roared again, louder this time. A wave of cheers, of clapping hands, of voices rising in support. Maya stood in the center, calm, composed, but her eyes shimmered with quiet pride. She didn't bask in the applause. She simply nodded, then said, "Back to work, everyone."
And just like that, the noise settled, but the energy lingered. An unspoken message filled the air. They weren't just working a job. They were following a leader, a real one. The echo of the slamming door hadn't even faded before phones buzzed across the office, emails pinged, notifications lit up. The story was already spreading, inside the company and beyond. The arrogant man's name was Robert Kane, and within hours, whispers of his meltdown at Maya's firm began to circulate in industry circles. But Robert, he wasn't about to let it go. He stormed back into his own office that afternoon, throwing his briefcase across the room. "They'll regret this," he growled at his assistant. "I'll make sure no one takes them seriously." His assistant, a thin young man with nervous eyes, shifted uneasily. But sir, they're respected. Their CEO is— "Don't say her name," Robert snapped, slamming his fist on the desk. "She embarrassed me in front of her staff. Do you know what that does to my reputation? No one talks to me like that." The assistant hesitated. Then, carefully, "Maybe you should have shown her more respect." The look Robert shot him could have frozen stone. "Get out." Meanwhile, across town, Maya sat in her office with her senior managers. The glass windows glowed with the golden light of late afternoon. She leaned back in her chair, calm as ever, her voice low but firm. "Robert Kane will try to retaliate," she said. "He'll smear us, he'll make calls, he'll try to poison our name. So, we'll stay ahead of him." "How?" asked her marketing director. Maya's lips curved into a small, knowing smile. "By letting the truth speak louder than his lies." The next morning, Robert launched his attack. He made phone calls, sent emails, whispered into the ears of contacts. "Don't work with them," he said. "Their CEO's inexperienced, she's unprofessional. She doesn't know how to handle big contracts." But the problem? People already knew Maya. They knew her reputation. They had seen her rise from a two-person startup in a cramped apartment to a thriving company with dozens of employees. They trusted her. And worse for Robert, word of his behavior had leaked. Staff who had witnessed the confrontation told friends. Those friends told colleagues. Soon, the story spread like wildfire. The narrative was no longer his to control. By the end of the week, LinkedIn posts were circulating. He walked into her office asking for the boss, not realizing she was the boss. The arrogance, the disrespect. The lesson? Never underestimate a black woman in charge. The post racked up thousands of likes, shares, comments. People were talking, not about Robert's so-called strategy, but about his downfall. Inside Maya's office, her phone buzzed with messages. Industry leaders congratulating her, young women saying they felt inspired, clients reaffirming their loyalty. But Maya didn't gloat. She didn't post a word herself. She let others speak. She let Robert's actions tell the story. Robert, on the other hand, was drowning. At lunch one afternoon, he walked into a high-end restaurant hoping to meet a potential client. But when he introduced himself, the man frowned. "Oh," the client said coolly, "you're the guy who insulted that CEO, aren't you?" Robert's stomach dropped. "That's exaggerated. Not interested," the man cut him off. "We want partners who respect people. Goodbye." The rejection stung, but it wasn't the last. One by one, doors closed on him. People stopped returning his calls. His assistant quit quietly, leaving only a short note. "I can't work for someone who doesn't respect others." The empire Robert thought he controlled was crumbling. Meanwhile, Maya's company thrived. New clients signed on. Talent wanted to join her team. Her employees walked taller, prouder, knowing their leader had stood strong in the face of open disrespect. One evening, as the office lights dimmed and the last of the staff left, Maya sat alone in the quiet. She thought about everything. The humiliation Robert tried to cause her, the look on his face when she revealed the truth, the way her team had rallied around her. She wasn't smiling. She wasn't gloating. She was simply steady. Because this wasn't just about one man. It was about every time someone had looked at her and assumed she didn't belong. Every time someone had asked, "So, when's your boss coming?" when she was the one signing the checks. Every time someone's eyes had widened when she introduced herself as the CEO. This moment wasn't revenge. It was proof. proof of what she had always known. She was powerful, capable, deserving, and no one could take that away. A week later, Robert showed up again. Not at her office. He wouldn't dare. But at an industry conference. Maya was scheduled to speak on a panel. He spotted her across the room, surrounded by colleagues who were eager to shake her hand. For a moment, he thought about walking over, about apologizing, about saving face. But when Maya's eyes flicked across the room and landed on him, her expression didn't change. She didn't glare, she didn't sneer. She simply looked at him and then looked away, as if he were nothing. And in that moment, Robert understood. He wasn't a rival anymore. He wasn't a threat. He was irrelevant. Weeks passed. The story never really died down. It had taken on a life of its own, shared in meetings, whispered in hallways, even retold as inspiration at networking events. The phrase, "Where's your boss?" had become almost like an inside joke in the industry. But the meaning was clear. It was a reminder, a warning. Never underestimate the person standing in front of you. For Maya, the momentum was unstoppable. Her firm was invited to bid on bigger contracts. She was asked to deliver keynote speeches. Journalists requested interviews. She didn't say yes to everything, she stayed selective, but every time she stepped on stage, she carried herself with the same calm, unshakable authority she had shown that day in her office. And every time, the crowd listened. Her employees beamed with pride. They told friends and family, "That's my boss." They weren't just proud of their company's success. They were proud of her. Robert, meanwhile, was unraveling. The lawsuit against his firm gained traction. More clients came forward with complaints, rumors of his outbursts, his arrogance, his lack of respect for anyone who didn't look like him. They spread faster than wildfire. One night, alone in his dimly lit office, Robert scrolled through his emails. Rejection, rejection, cancellation. His phone buzzed. A notification popped up. Another viral post telling the story. A photo of Maya smiling on stage, captioned, "They asked where her boss was," not realizing she was the boss. The comments stung worse than the headline. Poetic justice. Men like him are a dying breed. Salute to her. Robert slammed the phone down, but the truth was undeniable. His career, the empire he thought he controlled, was slipping through his fingers. And Maya, she was soaring. One evening, her company hosted a celebration. A new contract had been secured, the biggest in their history. The office buzzed with laughter, clinking glasses, and the glow of success. Maya stood at the front, raising her glass. Her employees quieted, eyes shining with respect and admiration. "I want to thank you all," she said, her voice carrying warmth and strength, "not just for the work you've done, but for the way you stood by me. That day in the office wasn't just about me. It was about all of us. It was about proving that leadership doesn't look one way, that respect isn't optional, that arrogance and prejudice have no place in this industry or anywhere." The room erupted in applause. She smiled, then added, "And if anyone ever asks again, 'Where's your boss?'" She paused, letting the silence build, then said with a spark in her eyes, "You tell them you're looking at her." The cheers shook the walls. For her employees, it was more than a job. It was a movement, a mission, and for Maya, it was a victory sweeter than any contract. Because she hadn't just won against Robert,
She had won for every woman who'd been underestimated, for every person of color dismissed or ignored, for every underdog told they didn't belong. That night, as the celebration roared on, she stepped outside for a moment of quiet. The city lights glittered against the night sky. She took a deep breath, her heart full, her spirit steady. She thought of all the battles she'd fought in silence, the whispers, the doubts, the sideways looks. And she thought of Robert Kane, the man who had walked into her office so sure of himself, so blind to the truth standing right in front of him. Now, he was just a fading memory. And she was unstoppable. Her phone buzzed again. Another message, another opportunity, another door opening. She smiled, slipped the phone back into her pocket, and whispered to herself, onward. Because the story wasn't just about proving him wrong, it was about proving herself right. And she had. Forever. If this story lit a fire in you, if it made you cheer when Maya stood tall, don't just keep it to yourself. Hit that like button. Share this video so more people hear it. And in the comments, tell me, have you ever been underestimated? Have you ever had someone look past you, not realizing who you really were? Because remember, sometimes the most powerful person in the room is the one they didn't see coming.